It feels so weird to be about to say this. But I have cancer. I really did not think that I would ever be filming a video like this, particularly at my age, but here I am. And this is how I found out that I have cancer. So my whole story started back in June. So pretty much, if you didn't already know, on June 15th this year, my mum passed away from cancer. Now, my mum was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and that is what ended up leading to her passing away. So pretty much 10 days after my mum passed away, I started to notice that it felt like all the time I had something stuck in my throat, whether I was eating or not. It just felt like I had a really big lump in my throat. And at the time I put it down to stress, obviously. I had a lot on my mind and I was pretty stressed and pretty upset, and I just thought maybe that it was a swollen lymph node. And I specifically remember one day being in my car and the lump was just annoying me so much, the feeling of having something stuck in my throat, that I was sort of, I guess, not even consciously fiddling around with my neck. And then I got to like about here on my neck and I was like, oh, there's a lump there. And I was like, oh, it must be on the other side as well. It must just be part of the structure of my neck. And I felt, and I was like, no, that's smooth. There's nothing there. And so I felt again and I was like, yeah, there's definitely something there. And at the time, to be honest, I didn't think anything of it. Like I said, I had so much on my mind that my health was not something I was even remotely concerned about. But I did book an appointment with my GP to go in anyway. So about a week later, I went into my GP. Of course, she felt my neck. The first thing she did was she referred me to go and get an ultrasound done on my neck, and specifically of my thyroid. So it took me a little bit to get in for my ultrasound, a little bit of time, because obviously with the whole COVID restrictions going on, I think it was about 2 weeks after my GP appointment that I finally got seen for an ultrasound. So I went in, laid down, and the ultrasound tech did the ultrasound of my neck. And she was being very, very thorough, taking a very long time, not really talking that much. But again, at the time, I didn't think anything of it. I just thought she was doing her job. And I remember at the end of the ultrasound, she was this really lovely, cheery lady. And she says to me, I wouldn't worry too much about the lump on your neck. Even if it's cancer, they can just remove it. And I just remember thinking, what? Because of course, prior to this, I'm not even considering the fact that I might have cancer. And in that moment, obviously, she couldn't confirm whether it was or wasn't cancer. But I guess having done so many ultrasounds and being so experienced, what she saw on my ultrasound obviously concerned her enough to think that, hey, this young girl, she might have cancer. So anyway, I walked away from that thinking, whatever, it's not cancer. A couple of days later, I have my appointment to go back to my GP to get my ultrasound results. And I go in there and pretty much my report classified my thyroid nodule as what's called a Thyroid 5. So one thing that most people probably don't know is that it is very common for everybody to have lumps or what's called nodules on your thyroid. A lot of people have them, they're not cancerous, they're just growths, they're lumps, they never turn into cancer, nothing to be concerned about. So nodules on your thyroid are classed from a 1 to a 6. Mine was classed at a thyroid level 5. What a thyroid classification 5 is it is highly suspicious, probably malignant, over an 85% chance of being cancerous, and 10 out of 10 cases normally come back as cancer. Now, the only other classification above a thyroid 5 is a thyroid 6, which is an already confirmed cancer. I just remember getting that report and going home. And at the time, my dad was visiting from Tasmania. And I remember walking in the door and him asking, how did it go, sweetheart? And I just burst into tears. Because my whole family was going through so much already with just having lost my mum. And I just felt so ashamed to be walking in and dumping the news on my dad that I probably had cancer too. So after getting my report back saying that my nodule was highly suspicious, my GP referred me to go and get what's called a fine needle aspiration or a fine needle biopsy done, which essentially is where they just put a needle in and take a biopsy of the tissue that is in your nodule to find out what it is. This is where I ran into a pretty big hurdle, or what I thought I was going to run into a pretty big hurdle, in that I called around so many pathology places and I couldn't get in for like a month and a half to 2 months to get this biopsy done. And I was thinking, I cannot wait that long to find out what this thing is. But somehow, luckily, I managed to call a place and they said, we can get you in today. If you can be here by 2 p.m, we can get you in today. And so I was like, I will be there. So me and my boyfriend and his sister, who is one of my best friends, we all drove in. And so went in and had my biopsy done. The first thing that the doctor did was he injected my neck with numbing, and then essentially he just did 3 different injections. So the needle would go in, he would suck out some tissue, put it on a little slide plate, go in, do it again, go in, do it again. So 3 times. And that was it. It was fine. Wasn't overly painful. Obviously there was numbing. So left my appointment that day, and then I waited patiently to find out what my results were. And then a couple of days later, my doctor actually called me on the phone and she said, your results have come back in from your biopsy. Did you want me to give them to you now on the phone? And I said, yes, I'm not gonna freaking make an appointment and wait to go in and see you. Just give them to me on the phone. And she said, it's benign. Your nodule is benign. It's not cancer. And I just remember being so insanely happy in that moment that I ran outside and I told my family, I just yelled, it's benign. And I was so happy. So anyway, at this point you're probably thinking, but hold on, I thought you said that you had cancer. Pretty much after I got that result back, I said to myself, okay, it might not be cancer, but that's not to say that maybe one day it would turn into it. And I would just like to investigate it a little bit further. One thing that I didn't mention as well is that after about 7 to 10 days of getting that initial feeling of having something stuck in my throat, the feeling actually went away. So even now, sitting here telling you this story, I don't have that feeling in my throat anymore. I decided I would book an appointment with a specialist, so an endocrinologist, somebody who specializes in thyroids, thyroid hormones, thyroid surgeries, that sort of thing. So I started doing my research and I decided I wanted the best. So I looked up a surgeon who is the head of endocrinology for all of Western Health. And I said, this is my guy. This is who I'm going to book an appointment with. So I rang his receptionist, and of course there was quite a long wait, which I expected, but at this point I was like, okay, it's all good. My lump is benign, there's no rush, whatever. At this point, it would have been the end of June and I couldn't get an appointment until August 14th. So August 14th rolls around and I go into my appointment with all of my reports and my ultrasounds and my biopsy results and everything, and I go in and I show him. And we sit down and he said, the tissue samples are completely benign. Everything that doctor got out of your lump is benign. However, looking at your ultrasound results right here, right now, they are highly suspicious. What made it so clear to him as he explained that it was suspicious is that it was a hard lump and it had calcifications in it. So it was showing really bright white little spots on it. It wasn't like a lymph node or fluid or a cyst or fatty tissue. It was a hard lump. And also with my particular lump, it had a very clear border around most of it. So like a clear definition between the lump and the tissue surrounding it. But then at the top of the lump, it was almost as if the tissue of the lump had melded into the tissue around it. So he said, what I want to do is I want to send you to get a second biopsy just to be sure. And the person that he sent me to is actually his brother. The next week I went in and I had my second biopsy done with his brother. So I had my biopsy done and was told that I would have my results within 3 days and that my surgeon would call me with the results. So of course, here I am thinking, okay, I've got at least 3 days to wait. The next afternoon, I remember I just sat down to eat lunch and my phone rang and I answered, and it was my surgeon, my endocrinologist. And he said, we've got your results back. And I said, okay. And he said, I'm sorry, but it is cancerous. And in that moment, I don't know whether it was shock or what, but I just said, okay, cool, yeah. And I was just like, not fast. I was like, it's cancer, okay. whatever. And he said, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna do surgery. We're gonna remove the whole left-hand side of your thyroid. We're gonna take out the lump. We're also gonna take out the lymph nodes that surround it. And then we're going to test those lymph nodes to see if there's cancer cells in those lymph nodes around it. If there is, then that means that we might have to go back in and take out your whole thyroid. And then you'll potentially have to have radioactive iodine treatment. And you'll have to be on a drug called thyroxine, which is a thyroid hormone replacement drug for the rest of your life. Now, I know that sounds pretty scary, but one thing that I want to sit here and tell you is that throughout this whole journey, every medical professional has told me that thyroid cancer is one of the most curable cancers. So the cancer that I have is almost cured in every single treatment case. So despite the fact that this was some really shitty news that I was getting over the phone, I still felt really confident that I was going to be okay. Now, unfortunately, there are some cases where thyroid cancer can spread throughout your body, but I'm really lucky in that the type of thyroid cancer I have is papillary. So there are about 4 or 5 different types of thyroid cancer, and papillary is the most common and also the most curable. And when I say curable, I mean that once you have your surgery and the cancer is taken out, there is no reoccurrence. Now, with the type of cancer that I have, papillary cancer, although it is very treatable, it is also quite common for it to spread to the surrounding lymph nodes. So that is something that, to be honest, I am a little bit nervous about. And obviously, I'm really hoping that if it has spread at all, it's only spread a little bit and it hasn't gone too far and hasn't gone anywhere else in my body. But I am such a positive person, and I just feel like, despite the fact that this is, I guess, really shit news for me to get, I still feel like this was supposed to happen. And I know some of you might be sitting there right now thinking, what is this girl talking about? She must be in shock. But I'm not. Like, I've gone through my shock. Like, the day I found out, I was happy and cheery and okay with it, perfectly fine. The next day, I was not okay. I was not myself. I didn't even feel like I was Maggie. I remember I was in the worst mood. I was upset. I was horrible to my partner. I was crying. I just wasn't myself. But I feel like that just got it out of my system, and now I have a clear head and I know how I think about this, and we've got a plan. We're going in for surgery. We're going to get rid of this lump, and whatever comes my way, I will deal with it. And I cannot help but have this overwhelming feeling that this whole journey is going to be life-changing for me. And when I say life-changing, I mean for the better. I honestly believe that every challenge we come across in our life makes us stronger. And if you can overcome those challenges, your life will be better for it. And so I feel like this was meant to happen to me. Regardless of the outcome, even though I feel like it is going to be the best outcome possible, if it's not, then that's okay. I will take that in my stride and I will deal with it when I have to. So pretty much the plan of attack is next week I will go in and I will have surgery done on my neck, and we go from there. Depending on what they find, I will either be done and just have to continue to have regular ultrasounds to monitor my thyroid and my neck area just to make sure that nothing reoccurs and nothing else happens, or I might have to have more surgery. So now that you know my story, I am going to bring you along for the first part of my journey, you guys. The footage that you're going to see next is, I guess, what you would call part 1 of my cancer journey. So prior to my surgery next week, I have to have a COVID test done and self-isolate for 5 days at home, not go anywhere up until my point of surgery. And I also have to have a bunch of blood tests done. So I guess with that being said, guys, this is part 1 of my cancer journey. Thanks for watching, guys. I love you so much, and it would mean the world to me if you subscribe to my channel. Until the next video, I'll see you later, guys. Love you.